Minnesota has much to offer travelers to the state. Beautiful lakes, majestic trees, this weird magnetic rock on the Gunflint Trail. You might not think Minnesota would need to trick tourists into visiting its many attractions. But you would be wrong. Welcome to Minnesota Historia. I'm Haley, your guide to Minnesota's tourist traps. This is a tourist trap. This is also a tourist trap. I would argue these are tourist traps too. They're just a slightly different animal, so to speak. A tourist trap is any attraction built near a highway, designed to lure cars full of tourists into stopping and spending their money. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Many tourist traps offered wholesome family entertainment, like a fun museum or a petting zoo, maybe miniature golf. And they sold the things travelers needed most: tiny flags, magnets, shaped like states. Cultural misappropriation. I don't resent tourist traps. I just want to understand them better. Let's start with the history of how Minnesota first started attracting tourists. 1917, the Great War raged across Europe. Bolsheviks revolted in Russia. Meanwhile, Minnesota just wanted more tourists to spend money here. That year, the 10,000 Lakes of Minnesota Association was formed. It was the first organized effort to attract tourists to our state. They came up with the nickname Land of 10,000 Lakes. They also came up with the Bread and Butter State, which seems less inclusive for dairy or gluten-intolerant travelers. Minnesota had a lot to offer. Plus, our summers were noticeably cooler. The Tourist Association came along at just the right time for America's growing middle class, which finally had leisure time, and cars, and places to drive. By 1930, Minnesota boasted 2,600 miles of paved roads. The number of resorts exploded. Every year there were more campgrounds, parks, restaurants, highways, and of course, gift shops. Get ready for some more dates, history nerds. In 1926, Highway 61 was established from the Canadian border to Crescent, hugging the Mississippi River in the south and Lake Superior in the north. It's actually the prettiest road in the entire world. Just my opinion. In 1933, the State Tourism Bureau took over for 10,000 Lakes because tourism had boomed from a $1 million a year business to more than $100 million. It was an era of excitement and adventure and freedom on the open road. Unless, of course, you weren't white. Brief but important tangent. You're probably familiar with the Green Book Guides published from 1936 to 1966 by New York mail carrier Victor Green. They listed businesses that were guaranteed safe for Black travelers to visit without discrimination in every state, including Minnesota. It listed hotels like London Road Court in Duluth, restaurants like Herman's Steaks in Motley, and yes, even early tourist traps like the Covered Wagon in St. Paul. The Covered Wagon was a restaurant shaped like a covered wagon, and it got listed almost every year. Total win-win for travelers. By the mid-60s, civil rights legislation made green books somewhat less necessary, and they stopped publishing. At the exact same time, Minnesota was building its interstate highway system. Travel was more accessible to more people than ever before. Welcome to the golden age of the Minnesota tourist trap.
We just call ourselves a classic tourist trap, as in classic. It's a derogatory term for an honorable profession as far as I'm concerned.
That's Bill Weckman, proprietor of Tom's Logging Camp on the north shore of Lake Superior. And if you doubt his commitment to wholesome family entertainment, just watch him gently shepherd this beautiful butterfly out of his gift shop.
Out the door. There we go. Shoot him out. It's gone.
It was a morning cloak butterfly. It was my first butterfly this year.
Of course, there are many other classic tourist traps operating in the state. There's the Spam Museum, the Mall of America, the world's largest sugar beet.
What's that one down in Treasure City? Treasure City's still operating. People talk about that.
But Tom's Logging Camp is one of the best examples of a tourist trap still standing in Minnesota, because it has not changed in decades.
And we don't change anything that we haven't had to. If there's no reason to do it, we don't do it. Well, it started in 1956, started by Tom Debach. The gift shop was the focus, and then he had a lot of stuff that he'd collected over the years.
He's not joking. There's a lot of stuff.
All the stuff that they use for logging with horses, and it's in 8 different buildings out there. Harness shop, barn, bunkhouse, cook shack, blacksmith shop.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
We're gonna take a quick tour of Tom's logging camp. Edit that out, that was really cheesy.
Oh, our editor doesn't listen to me. That's why I look so ridiculous most of the time.
And it's a self-guided tour. This is a history of logging in the northern states. This is the harness shop, warehouse, and shoeing stall. Nailed it. Now we're heading for the chainsaws. So this is the chainsaw display, which is not period appropriate, but it's become one of the most popular things that we do. Well, this is the blacksmith shop. We've got all the explanations of what you're seeing. This guy really needs to be in the woods. He does not need to be in town. So this is the bunkhouse. This is the basic transportation building.
I'm sorry to interrupt the tour, but I think we skipped the cook shanty. We cannot skip the cook shanty. Creepy nightmare mannequins are a staple of tourist traps.
Yeah, that's the gravity house. That's what we call it. We've got the animals and the fish and the gravity house and the nature trail and things like that for mostly the kids.
Another classic staple in many tourist traps, straying slightly off-brand.
That's the odds and ends building. Doesn't necessarily mean anything to everything else you've done today building.
So this logging camp has an electric chair.
And that'll conclude the tour. That is right on the edge. That's a little dicey.
Bill doesn't like the electric chair, but he's also reluctant to change anything.
Even if it's a spoon on a wall, you don't move it. You don't do anything, but you never know who's going to remember what.
The Greek god Nostalgia is in charge here.
It's too late to do anything about it. You know, I brought my dad to see your chair. Hope it's still out there.
The tour at Tom's logging camp is pretty wild, but as it is with any tourist trap, Tom's beating heart is its gift shop.
I'm the purveyor of high-grade stupid stuff.
Candy, cigarettes,
Rattlesnake eggs in the envelope.
slingshots, 4 bears,
The old wire-wrapped plastic clob mood ring.
these flavored sugar sticks,
Switchblade combs. If we can find any of that stuff, we still stock it. Always. Because that's what you found back then when you were a kid. Because everything changes. And it's changing faster now. And it's terrible when things you love go away.
This is why I've closed my heart off to so many things. Why bother to love these tourist traps if they're just going to leave you? Like everything leaves you.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things gone by the wayside.
Like Split Rock Trading Post, a gift shop that featured a caged bear as an attraction.
Because we get asked that a lot. Did you used to have bears? No, that was up the shore.
Tourists would feed the poor critter marshmallows.
And that's gone.
Shadows of others remain, like Paul Bunyan's playground in Bemidji. Paul and Babe are still there, obviously. But if you want to experience the glory days of tourist traps in Minnesota, you're a few decades late.
Most of that kind of thing has been replaced by something. Usually something with gas pumps or something. Yeah, just goes away.
I'm sorry, let's turn this thing around and try to end on a positive note. Remember, we have a room full of chainsaws. We have creepy lumberjack mannequins. We have flavored sugar sticks. Thanks for watching Minnesota Historia, your guide to all things quirky in Minnesota history. In future episodes, we'll be going even further and deeper into the quirky, soft underbelly of this very weird state. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And please become a member of PBS North to support projects just like this.